More spring changes ahead in the forecast. I'm ABC 10 Chief Meteorologist Monica Woods. We're looking at the return to weekend showers for some people, and then on the heels of that, fire weather. So we'll detail what areas are going to experience the biggest changes in those weather patterns. First, we're getting through the first weather system of the week. Snow accumulation over the past 12 hours. You can see it's been a little bit more to the south here, just north of I-80 through that 80-50 corridor, south of Highway 50 as well. Now, in terms of the rain showers, we still picked up a few of those light showers coming in overnight through early in the morning. Much of that through the central part of the Sacramento capital region, and then just off to the east here as well. So additional accumulation coming in just since midnight of about 1/100 of an inch for Sacramento and Marysville, closer to about 1/10 of an inch though for Oroville. And again, we are continuing to pick up a few snow showers for the Sierra. So taking an account of where we've been over the past 2 days, we picked up over 1/2 inch of rain for Oroville, over 3/10 of an inch of rain for Nevada City, as well as Fairfield. Vacaville with about 1/10 of an inch to almost 2/10 of an inch. Marysville around 1/10 of an inch, as well as Fair Oaks, Pioneer, Elk Grove just under that mark, as well as Lincoln, and then Sacramento Executive Airport for 1/100 of an inch of rain. Snow, not bad for May, anywhere from 1 to 5 inches of snow, as you can see for many of the resorts. Many are closed. Most are saying, we'll open periodically if there's enough snow. Try to keep it going through Memorial Day. That's always kind of the benchmark, and on a really good year, trying to make it through July 4th. Satellite and radar, we got a nice little pause in what was a pretty rapid warming late last week and through early in the weekend. Weather feature coming through had a lot of cold air with it and instability. Saw a few pop-up thunderstorms on our Monday and again on Tuesday as this low continues to press its way eastward. Now behind it, we'll see a brief little ridge build in. There's not a lot of accumulation left over from this weather system. We'll see a few sprinkles through the early evening, and then things wind down here. Same for snow. We'll see about 1 inch or so falling between the late afternoon on Tuesday through the early evening, and then everything starts to dry out. So this is about it. That's the last band of precipitation moving through. Behind it, again, brief ridge of high pressure, but then we're tracking that next low. That's going to be the weekend player, which once again brings us a chance of showers, but it's really confined to the Sierra, and most of that falling as rain. We'll see some lower elevation snow for a brief period of time overnight Saturday into our early Sunday forecast, but for the most part, this isn't going to be a huge rain or snow maker. So again, we get a brief little break from the cooler spring air with us. For the middle of the week, we warm up slightly, but then that next push of cooler air starts to move in for the beginning of the weekend. It's not going to last long. In fact, right on the heels of that, we get into this fire weather pattern as that low that moves in on the weekend starts to move into the Great Basin as this high pressure ridge builds in. It's in between these that we get those north and easterly gusty winds. Those are dry, warming winds, and they tend to lower the humidity pretty quickly and bring up the fire danger. So we're going to have these weather playlists and extended forecasts going on ABC 10 Plus. That's our TV app. You'll want to download it wherever you stream for free on TV. Not only do we have these extended weather forecasts, but also explainers, weather and climate specials. Make sure to check it out. The Weather Prediction Center putting out this high wind risk. We're in the slight category for that on the weather hazard outlook, and that will mainly be in that Sunday, Monday timeframe. What you'll notice too is this is largely hugging the coast, and then for interior sections of northern and central California. Just to kind of recalibrate, now that we're moving kind of out of the wet season and into the dry season, our fire weather alerts. Fire weather watch can be issued several days before for an event that may produce critical fire conditions. We don't have any of that yet, but once confidence grows, that's when we start to get into the red flag warning conditions and an event that will produce critical fire conditions. It's pretty tough to do so this time of year just because we're just coming off of the wet season. But with a couple of heat events, it doesn't take long and we start to drive up that fire danger. So it's a good time to just kind of get that go bag ready. The 5 P's to keep in mind: people, pets, papers, prescriptions, and photos. Want to make sure that you have everything needed for your people and your pets, including those documents and prescriptions and any photos that you want to keep as well. Put that in a go bag and make sure everybody's accounted for. Have that emergency plan ready to go. Here's a look at where we're seeing the elevated fire risk, and it's going to be the low elevations. This is pretty standard practice here. We see the low elevations dry out first. It doesn't take much for the fuel to dry out, whereas for the higher elevations, just because it tends to be colder, wetter, and we still have snowpack up there for some of the higher elevations, it takes a little bit longer to dry out. So right along the coast and for interior sections of California, that's where we see kind of the percentile of dryness really starting to ramp up. In terms of our fuel dryness, our energy release component, this is something that we kind of track deeper into the season, but it does help us to see if we get a wind event, how quickly might it spread, especially for some of those more prone areas throughout California. Right now, large fires are unlikely for the Sacramento Valley and hills, where we're kind of seeing a little bit more dryness happen, but you can see how we've been starting to pivot more to the neutral category. Eventually, we'll start to enter into that neutral category, and by July and August, as we get farther from that wet season, we'll get the likelihood that we'll see the potential for higher danger in our fire category. So Sunday into Monday, this is where it's going to be most pronounced. It's going to be on the lower threshold, but we will be seeing increasing dryness for the Sacramento Valley. So that's up and down, and just for the adjacent foothills as well. That includes west and east of I-5. We'll be looking at that very closely. So our Sierra snowmelt, as you can see, April 1st, we had a lot of snow in the high country. This was the peak tendency of the highest snowpack that we see year to year on the average. But then by the time we got to the middle of May, things are melting quickly, and so we're starting to see less in the way of moisture. It's still pretty insulated from that super high fire danger, but we're seeing that accelerated snowpack melt. And so by the time we get into our June and July outlook, that's when we start to get more concerned for those wildland fires breaking out. Just something to keep in mind. Right now, it's on the lower elevations. Moving ahead into the summer months, that's when things start to migrate into the higher elevations. So our 8 to 14 day climate outlook for the middle and end of May is trending in the likely warmer and drier phase of this weather cycle that we've been in. We've been flip-flopping from wet and cool to dry and warmer, and it looks like we will start to trend more towards that drier and warmer scenario, which means we are likely right around the corner from seeing our first 95-degree day, and it's very possible not too far off the mark of our first 100-degree day. That'll knock down the pollen, if there's any consolation, and potentially seeing 100s around the corner. But right now, definitely not seeing that in our 10-day forecast for right now, but getting close. Highs in the 50s for tomorrow for this year, 60s and 70s down the hill as we make our way through the middle of our week. This is going to be one of the warmest days of the work week. 60s along the coast. We're still kind of struggling to get to that 80-degree mark for some areas in the coastal valley regions, but we should make it pretty easily to about 80 throughout the Central Valley, which is pretty close to average, actually. Morning lows starting off in the 40s and 50s. It was pretty chilly this morning. It's going to be very similar tomorrow morning, a little warmer, though, for the afternoon with more access to that sunshine. We saw quite a bit of cloud cover for our Tuesday. Showers returning for the outlook over the weekend, and again, we take a little dip in our temperature trend. Not for long. It's right back up into the warmer category, but that chance of showers remains for the elevations, including the foothills and the Sierra on Saturday. But again, we quickly pivot. On Sunday, we turn our attention back to the windy weather in the forecast. So a high near 80 on Wednesday, mid 80s Thursday and Friday. We drop those highs to about the upper 70s on Saturday. Wind develops Sunday into Monday. Those are dry and warming winds. So you can see how quickly it starts to bring the warmth back into the forecast for the middle of the next work week. We're in the mid 90s, so it's very likely 95 degrees, not too far off here. And we'll keep our eye on any triple digits in that forecast as well.